Oh, we're live.
We're live. You got it. You're ready to go, kiddo.
So when you want to talk, honey, just talk into the microphone here, okay?
Okay.
So you're so excited to be here, aren't you, Nora?
Uh-huh.
Why are you so excited to be on YouTube?
Because I actually never really made a video.
Yeah.
And it's like exciting to be with my dad.
Taking a selfie. First time.
It's your first time taking a selfie?
It actually, no, but it's pretty close. I have one selfie on my Instagram account, and that's my only picture. And it's she and I when she came down to visit me at the company.
What?
You don't remember that? You came down and visited. We took the train.
Oh yeah, now I remember.
Mommy dropped you off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because both of you guys had to work, so I went with Daddy.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was my first time at the company.
Yeah, it was fun.
Uber Eats.
There it is.
Well.
Well, we use Uber Eats.
Oh,
We use
Yeah,
Uber Eats.
yeah.
I don't know where you were.
Your daddy works for your daddy works for the government. He's a top secret spy.
That's cool. What's your favorite thing to watch on YouTube, Nora?
If it was anything, but I can't really watch it that much because I might fall asleep. I like to watch you guys.
Oh, wow. That's so sweet.
10 out of 10.
I did not coerce her to say that because I didn't know she was going to be even on. So that's awesome that is your response. Besides Daddy and Kevin, who else do you like to watch? Like, what do you like to watch on YouTube?
I like to watch Aphmau.
Aphmau, and what does she do?
She plays Minecraft and she plays Roblox and she plays. I don't know what she plays.
Minecraft, Roblox.
Hacks and now I think I remember. She plays not Fall Guys. I think she plays like Human Fall Flat.
Oh, Human Fall Flat. Does she still play Among Us at all?
She does.
She does.
I don't know though, but she doesn't make any videos of them anymore.
Oh, okay. So she used to play Among Us a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, that's good. So you like watching YouTube. What's the day in the life of Nora? Like, what does Nora do on a usual day?
On a usual day,
Mm-hmm.
I usually just go to school and I play with my friend Ellie. But on Sundays and Saturdays, I have a dance, and it's a dance for Harry Potter, and we do shorts of it. And my teacher for it is Miss Nora.
Oh my gosh, she has your name?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
She's like N-O-R-A, and I'm an N-O-R-A.
Yeah.
And there's another Nora in the class. Another Nora. So
What?
there's 3 Noras in the room.
No way.
That's a lot of Noras.
That's a lot of Noras.
Hello to our one viewer. We're on live right now with Brian's daughter, Nora. She's telling us about what it's like to have a day in her life. A day in her shoes.
And now you're
Really?
you're in school. What grade are you in?
First grade.
Okay. And what kind of lessons do you learn in first grade? What's the curriculum like in first grade?
What does that even mean?
What are you learning about?
We've been learning about, so we finished these both. We learned about the sun, the solar system, and we learned about, what we did the differences in the same thing about day and night. And
Wow.
my teacher is Miss Rupnick.
Oh, wow.
But her real name's Sonia.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And we've been learning lots of math.
Okay. What kind of math?
We don't learn times yet, but I like to do times a lot.
You mean multiplication?
Yeah,
Okay.
but we don't do that yet.
But you like practicing it on your own?
Yeah, I like to practice it with my mom and dad. And my dad's right here right now. He's been podcasting for a long time.
Yeah, with Kevin. We've been podcasting the same amount of time.
Uh-huh.
It was Kevin's brilliant idea.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
There you go. There you go. What do you want to be when you grow up?
When I grow up, I want to do different jobs.
Like what?
I want to do a few jobs, I say. I want to be a cooker, and I want to be a senior, and I want to be a veterinarian for pets, and that's pretty much all.
Okay.
And also, for the veterinarian, I want to help every single animal, even a tiger, even a lion, even a wolf, all the dangerous animals too.
Oh, so you wanna help even the dangerous animals?
Mm-hmm.
It's very noble of you.
Yeah.
And my spirit animal is a lion.
And your dad's spirit animal is?
A humpback whale.
This is true. We took a test, and she got a lion.
And
I got a humpback
my
whale.
mom could be a poisonous snake or a normal snake.
She did get the snake, but they
Noel,
did.
you snake you.
They did make a disclaimer.
I.
Okay, careful, not too close to the
A
mic.
little further away, honey. There, you're perfect right there. No, not that far.
Oh, okay. But I want to, since my mom is on YouTube probably, I want to say hi to her. Hi, Mommy.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. She's probably tuning in just now.
I
So
think she
she'll see
was.
that.
Yeah, I think she was on
Yeah.
just a second ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Nerp.
But this will be on YouTube forever, so we can have this video up, and you'll be on there, so you can watch it anytime.
I'll probably come on to the next one next.
Oh yeah, you're just gonna be a regular guest.
Yeah, I'll be a regular guest so far.
I gotta say, this has probably been the best start to any of our live streams on YouTube.
And the cleanest.
Yes, that's true as well. That's true as well.
So let me ask you this. Do you like listening to your daddy talk about politics? Is it cool? Do you learn a lot from him?
I do learn history from my dad.
He's very smart when it comes to history.
Well, he was a teacher, and I got teached math, and this is an easy equation. 290 plus 405 equals 695.
Yeah, that checks out.
I'll fact check it.
So you put the 200 and the 400 together, then it would equal 6. And you put the 90 plus the 5, it would equal 95. And you just push that 95 into the 600, then you would have 695.
It's good. You're doing good, kiddo.
I'm glad you showed your work.
Yeah, that's good.
That's really good.
It is.
Is math your favorite subject? What's your favorite subject?
All the subjects.
Okay, now here's a really important question, Nora. We have the holiday season come up, and our family tends to celebrate Christmas. So, what is something you want for Christmas?
For Christmas from Santa?
Yeah.
From Santa, he gets to get anything he wants from me.
Oh yeah, you don't have anything in particular you want?
In particular, nothing.
No.
He gets to choose anything. Okay, goodbye.
Okay.
Hold on, you gotta take your headphones off,
take the
pumpkin.
headphones off.
I'm not
And say
kidding.
say goodbye to YouTube.
No, I'm not leaving.
Oh no, you can leave. Mommy said you can come inside now.
No, I don't want to.
I know, but we
Our
have to do our real
podcast has now been
podcast.
hijacked by Nora.
It's gonna go viral now.
Yeah.
Viral.
Can we just have her stick around, and anytime we want to emphasize something, we
Yeah.
just give her the nod,
Yeah.
and she just repeats what we said, but in song?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
she's got her dad's DJ skills.
Somebody scream! Oh my goodness. Okay, time to hang up the headphones for tonight.
Okay, goodbye, everyone.
See you guys on Wednesday.
See you guys on Monday.
Wednesday.
Wait, Wednesday, I mean. See you guys on Wednesday.
That was awesome.
You're great, kiddo.
Bye.
Bye, sweetheart.
Bye. Bye, Daddy. Love you too.
Good job.
Yeah.
Did she just say you eat?
She said, "Yeah, yeet."
Yeah, eat.
Yeah.
Daddy. Yeah.
Well, we'll have to do an extended version when we don't have such an awesome podcast to get to.
Okay, she's a freaking rock star.
She was made for this.
Oh my gosh. Everything she said was gold.
Yeah.
Gosh. And you helped make her.
Yeah, I did like at least 10 minutes of work.
That's solid.
Yeah, I gave a good effort. Maximum effort, baby.
She walks out the door, the podcast gets dirty.
What do you mean? I meant in all of my fatherhood.
Oh, you put in more than 10 minutes.
You're right.
Give yourself credit,
you're
at least
right.
15.
I was. My 15 minutes of fame is just fatherhood.
Gosh, I think your daughter just gave us our 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone wants to watch a young budding star, that's it.
Gosh,
she's it.
Brian,
if we ever really focused on just like going viral and blowing this up and having nothing to do with politics, we would just record our kids playing.
Yeah.
That's how we blow up the channel.
I came up with another idea. I know I told you about my previous podcast idea, and that is Brian and Kevin telling or reading bedtime stories while drinking whiskey.
That's a good one.
I've got another one.
Ooh.
Us teaching politics to children.
Oh, boy.
Like government and politics. The basics. No leanings one way or the other.
Yeah.
You leave out the party system. You don't leave out the party system. You say that there's a party system.
Yeah, but you don't describe their ideologies.
Yeah. We could do it.
Yeah.
It wouldn't work with Ben, though.
We could do like a politics for beginners.
Yeah.
I would say like politics for dummies, but we already do that.
We are dummies.
Yeah. We just
and this is for us.
Yeah.
So here's what happened. I read up a bunch of stuff today. Oh my goodness. I think is it Noelle that's watching us right now? Probably.
Yeah, I don't know. She also likes to share it to Facebook. Being our social media manager, I need her to do some more TikToking because that was pretty good. That one got a good amount of views. So
I forgot to tell my wife that my youngest dropped all the baby Q-tips into the pool. Not the pool, the bathtub.
Well, it's your fall pool. Because the summer pool is your actual pool.
I like that, yeah.
But your fall, winter, and early spring pool is your bathtub.
It's a solid call.
Because what else is it, right? A pool is just a big bathtub.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh. They don't have fall pools in jail.
No.
They have winter rain showers.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a stretch.
There's not much room to stretch in a prison.
There's not, Brian.
Due
Why
to
is
the
that?
overpopulation. And the privatization of it.
What is it, the CCA?
Yeah. Oh.
I'd drop the people's elbow on them for sure.
I just, one of the most interesting parts to me is how someone even thought of the idea to make a private company that would profit off of the prison system.
Doesn't surprise me at all. I'm not in the slightest bit surprised.
I guess, yeah, I mean, you're right. I shouldn't be surprised.
I understand what you're saying.
But like, it always baffles me when people have that initial idea of like, hey, I can make money off of that. And that really goes for a lot of things. A lot of things to me kind of surprise me and like, oh, wow, that was really ingenious in what they did. Like how they came up with that or, that innovative practice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
In the same vein, I was like that with the privatization of prisons and immigration facilities as well.
Yeah.
Which is what the CCA is also known for.
If given the time and opportunity, everyone will Ron Swanson the system. Everyone will privatize anything they can and make as much money as they possibly can.
I guess, yeah. But like, at what point does someone say, hey, I could take the prison system and make it profitable? Like, how do you decide that you can run a prison better than the government, which I understand the government is full of inefficiencies, But how do you then decide, like, oh, yeah, I can really capitalize off of this to the tunes of making millions and millions of dollars?
You find a bunch. It's the same thing, the same way that they privatized schools. And there's private schools. Now, it hasn't gone to the same degree as private prisons, but that's because there's the expense of the private school goes to the parents. So if you don't have a lot of money, you're not going to be able to send your child to a private school.
Right.
However, when the government's flipping the bill,
you're absolutely right, because at the same time someone said, "Hey, I can make more money."
Podcast. I sounded smart there for a moment.
Well, we can.
It was a brief, fleeting moment. It's gone.
Lots of moments. I don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Oh gosh. I just got a text message from my wife, and of course, like it shows up on the screen, and all it said was "turd" because of the Q-tips.
Oh, she was calling you a turd?
No.
Oh, there was a turd floating in the winter pool.
No, the Q-tips went into the winter pool,
and
she was calling my son Jacob a turd.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
I mean, it all adds up.
Yeah, it adds up about as well as Nora's math, which is fucking spot on.
Yeah. She likes to flex a little bit on that.
Dude, if you can
pull back.
Yeah, if you want to mathematically flex, I think you should.
Yeah.
Neil deGrasse Tyson does it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't understand my issue with his name, because I had to go
Neil. You always say Neil.
Yeah, got it. And then I was too late to even say something because the moment had passed.
That's okay. Yeah, you always call him Neil Tyson deGrasse or something.
Yeah.
Which is okay. I mean, he doesn't care. Jason went and saw him.
Yeah, one of our.
That's why he couldn't see the hot ones. Oh, which, by the way, shout out to Simon. Simon's one of my coworkers.
Oh, nice. Hey,
and
Simon.
He just made a trip down to. Brian's winking at you. Not that I need to tell you that because we're live on YouTube. But he just made a trip down to Southern Illinois. And he's like, "Hey,
why?
Dude, family maybe."
Oh, okay. Sorry.
But he's like, "Yeah, dude, give me the name of your podcast again. I'm gonna listen to it." And he listened to the entire way there and the entire way back. He listened to us.
Dude, that's like 12 and a half, 13 hours at least.
Yeah, he's probably caught up.
Thanks. Well, he's got about 100, I would think probably 150 hours of content.
Yeah, at least.
Right? Because every episode.
The Hot Ones episode alone is 2 hours.
Oh, election night was like. Well, but we didn't do a podcast.
Live.
Yeah, it was just on Facebook.
That can actually still be seen on our Facebook, right? Like people go back and watch it on there. I should rip the audio from it. Actually, no, I have the audio from it. I should release that.
Yeah.
Go back to Brian's nightmares when he thought Donald Trump was going to win it again.
Those are the results.
Well, got any bagel bites?
Dude, bagel bites sounds so good.
Dude, bagel bites are great, man. Who doesn't like bagel bites?
See, now that's it, right? That's what I'm saying. Someone was innovative enough to say, man, I love pizza, but like, I just love my morning bagel. And then, bam.
Bagel bites.
Do you know, it had to have started. It started, I know this for a fact. No, it's not a fact. But I know this to be true in my heart. Okay?
Good cover there.
The way that bagel bites came to fruition was some guy was hungover a morning after partying. And there was morning leftover pizza, and a bagel on the counter. And he's like, I can't decide. And he's like, why the fuck should I?
That's a good point. I see the way that I see it is perhaps it was a young man who is a bit of a weed smoker, likes the marijuana. Mm-hmm. Okay. But he's health conscious though. So he's like, I really want pizza for breakfast. But pizza for breakfast isn't a good idea. But what if I put it on a bagel and miniaturize it so that it's slightly healthier and breakfast forward?
I'm going to throw out an homage to our wonderful wives.
Go.
And how they take care of us. Maybe.
Gotcha.
Some man's wife saw how hungover he was, and she's like, how can I make him feel better?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, I'm going to combine two of his favorite things. I was going to go to McDonald's and get him a breakfast sandy, and then I was like, no, I'm going to make a bagel.
Mm-hmm. Good.
And I know how much my husband loves pizza.
Yeah.
And I am just such a caring wife, like that of Kevin and Brian.
Yeah, just like ours.
And then, bam, I made a fucking bagel plate for my husband, and then I'm going to make 5 more.
Yeah.
So he can have 6 bagel bites.
Because that's one serving.
That is, in my world, yes.
Dude,
just like Kraft mac and cheese.
I can now see bagel bites on worse. With bagel bites, I could eat like all of the bagel bites. For sure. I mean, who doesn't love a good bagel bite? Mm.
Right.
Yeah. I'd eat two or three of them at a time.
Yeah. Whatever's in the box.
I don't even know. I haven't had bagel bites in ages. Hey, Siri. How many bagel bites come in a box?
There's a 40 count? Okay, I can't do a whole box of 40 count.
Sorry, Siri. Brian
There's a 12 pack.
You just Dwighted Siri.
I beat the machine.
Yeah.
I am the machine. Speaking of, and I don't know how I feel about this. I was at a party. A baseball party.
Real rager.
Right. So like the parents of these baseball kids. We were at a party.
Sounds wild.
And we're sitting there and we're all chatting and I'm having some fun.
Naturally.
And, making some jokes, some quips, if you will.
Yeah.
And someone was like, hey man, I'm supposed to go to Bert Kreischer in a few weeks. He's playing in Rockford, for those of you that don't know. He's like, you remind him of me. Or you remind me of him. And then the other guy was like, nah, he's a little bit more like Tom Segura. And I was like, okay, there's 2 ways to go with this. I know they mean this in a complimentary way. But I just don't, I don't know if I've come to grips with this at 35 years old and not being the athlete I once was, that I'm like the fat bearded funny dude now instead of what I once was. It was just a moment where I had to just stop and soak it in, masticate, and
Are you
really.
sure you want to say that on air?
I wanted to masticate and digest it. And I think I'm okay with it, but it really caught me off guard. It kind of shook me to my core, but when I came to terms with it, I was okay. Because at some point you have to just be honest with yourself. You have to be your most authentic self. And that's...
I've always been it.
Yeah.
That's why I only have one friend. Just kidding.
Who is it?
It's you.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah. Anna just married me for my...
Your money.
Big mistake, sweetheart. You fucked up.
So my wife...
Despite my
wife... So when I first started dating her, I owned a really nice Audi. I
A4, A8, A6?
It was an A6.
Nice.
It was a 2000... I met her... Oh, I can't remember. We've been together almost 9 years. So I met her in like 2013. This was like a 2007 maybe Audi. So it was like 5-6 years old. It had like 60,000 miles on it, but in an Audi, that's nothing. German made, so it was well taken care of and all that.
Yeah.
But anyways, I pick her up in my Audi, and one of the things she told me later on in life was like, yeah, like I love a really nice car, and so that was a very attractive thing about you. And I was like, you thought I had money, didn't you? And she's like, well, crossed my mind. I was like, yeah, I was making $31,000 as a fucking teacher out in a rural unit school district. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's how it went.
It's like the reverse of those like videos that they post online where it's a guy who like doesn't look like he has a bunch of money, but then the girl ignores him, but then he goes and hops into his Lambo, and she's like, "Oh hey, maybe I want to go on a date." You had reversed that.
Yeah.
Hey, check out my nice car.
It was the only reason.
By the way,
she wanted
because
to
I
do
had
it.
this car and had to pay for premium gas, you're getting McDonald's for a date.
She thought I was rich. I thought she was a little bit older. It's all good.
Been there.
Yeah. She
Well,
was.
that
of
sounded
age.
terrible.
She was of age.
Yeah.
YouTube. Don't you worry.
Yeah.
I think.
That's cool though. We're married now. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Speaking of prison, you want?
Let's do it.
Want to hop into a podcast before I get myself into more?
Yeah. Now
trouble?
that we've done 25 minutes.
Have we done 25 minutes?
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us, YouTube. I'm always excited for those. I mean, I know we have one, but sometimes people do go back and rewatch these, and it's always exciting. We don't do a lot of editing right now, so please like and subscribe so we can devote more and more attention to our YouTube channel. Right now, we're just always adding up our raw footage of our podcast recordings. So like, subscribe, comment,
Drop a comment below.
yeah, and enjoy.
And smash that like button. That's what all the YouTubers say.
Yeah, people like F-Mao, who Nora likes.
Nice. We're just like the people that Nora likes. Let's do this.
All right.
Let's break out. Come on, let's break out. Break out. Tell everybody break out. We bout to, it's time. Let's go, let's ride, let's roll. Got me feeling so free now. It's exactly what I need. Yeah, we knocking down the door. Turn up a little more. Hey, what you waiting for? Break out. Oh, we on the map. I can take you now where the party at. We the ones that he just let.
And we are live.
We're live.
It's happening.
Always.
And forever.
And on YouTube.
Nice. I think nice is now something that's added into that little script.
Yeah, at some point we'll just have like 10 minutes of just words linked to one another.
Nice. Great. Wonderful.
Everyone on the bus.
Excelsior. I think Excelsior is one of my favorite words.
That's from Harry Potter, right?
No, I still haven't seen it or read it, remember?
Oh, really? It's got to be. Or is that just like a...
Excelsior. It's used. They use it in the movie, the book.
Oh, no.
Silver
This
Linings
is...
Playbook. Excelsior. It's a word.
Yeah, it's a real... Oh, my God. I'm an idiot.
Read the definition.
Yeah, it's Latin for higher.
Yes. Can you take me Excelsior?
Yeah, I think they that's probably what they started the song with, and they're like, let's go back. Let's dumb this down for people like Brian who don't know that it's not just a Harry Potter term. See, here's the thing. I don't even know if it's a Harry Potter term. I thought I heard it. No, isn't that Leviosa to go higher?
You're still asking me, but again, I haven't seen. Oh, you're asking the audience. Hello.
Yeah, no, we're gonna be watching all of the Harry Potter movies with Nora this year because her dance troupe is doing like they do a production and then they open the production up with like kind of a group dance with all these different groups within the whole dance company, and their theme for the opening is going to be Harry Potter, and so we want to bring her up to speed on what Harry Potter is. But truth be told, can I be honest with you?
Always.
Are we in the trust circle with the podcast?
Yes.
Okay.
Always.
Because I think some people might get upset
That's okay.
about it.
I won't. So you're fine.
I've never watched the last one.
Oh, that's
I've
fine.
watched all of the others,
Okay.
and then I haven't watched the last one.
You're saving it.
And I want
for
to.
Nora.
You're right. I knew all along.
I got you.
I knew all along we were going to get there. How many bagel bites is my Google right now? For those of you that
Not
are
not as bad as the last one.
Yeah, for those of you that are only listening on the podcast, thank you for listening. But a lot of times we do our pre-math now is a YouTube broadcast, or we do our whole live stream of the podcast, but we don't start podcasting the moment we go live on stream. So if you ever want to catch us, we're usually live on Sunday nights and kind of late Wednesday. So I wouldn't anticipate a lot of people hopping on for the Wednesday nights. But it is always fun to have people jump on the live streams. We've had people like Chris, Sam, Richard, a bunch of people usually like to hop on for our bigger productions like election night or the Hot Ones broadcast, stuff like that. But we always do a live stream on YouTube.
Always.
Yeah. So tonight,
we're tackling something that Brian is super excited to talk about.
So I'm excited to talk about in a way that I think people need to become more educated on it, because I think it's a fundamental flaw in the American system.
Fair enough.
And that's the prison system, and basically the industrial complex that is, created by it, and therefore also the privatization of it, as we've seen with so many of these industries where, the American promise is life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Anything regarding those things, a lot of times it was always government run, like education and things like that. And we've seen a lot of privatization of those things. And as we've seen that, it has been very detrimental to American society, in my opinion.
Yeah, something interesting that I think that should be brought up for those people that are listening. Sorry for the people who are watching on YouTube and have already seen/heard us say these things. But Brian brought up, or he was telling me earlier on that I had to catch myself there, because normally I say Brian was talking to me off air.
Yeah. This time we were on air.
And you had mentioned you couldn't believe that somebody had come up with a way to privatize and become profitable off of prison, or off of incarceration, I should say. Yeah. And it just makes so much sense to me, because I do feel like anybody who, or given a long enough timeline, to quote Fight Club, given a long enough timeline, I think anybody can find something and privatize it and find a way to make money off of it. All you need is an idea, and then somebody who's very good with money and numbers.
And I think...
something government-backed, something where the government has to pay for it. You know what I mean? Because then it's like...
that's a big aspect of this particular venture.
Congratulations, Pfizer and Moderna.
Yeah. The issue I have with the prison system being privatized, similarly to healthcare, similar to public education, the privatization of it means there's going to be profit-driven choices.
It means cutting costs where you can. It means
cutting costs, making people overpay for common goods or whatever the case is. Yeah, and
things like Aramark taking over most of the food in the prison system, and maggots showing up in food and
you're
such.
hopping right in. I love it.
I did a bunch of research. You got me all nervous, and you were like, right away. It was on Wednesday. You're like, Sunday we're doing the prison system. And then I went home and I was like, God, Brian knows a lot about the prison system.
Mike.
I don't know how we haven't gotten there already.
The Dementors. I mean, yeah, we've already talked about prisons and Harry Potter. How did we not do Prison Mike yet?
I don't know. Yeah. Yo, Prison Mike, what were you in for? Doesn't he say he robbed somebody?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways.
Didn't he make it sound like he was Robin Hood?
Oh yeah, he robbed from the rich and gave to the poor.
Like that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's good.
Yeah,
that's really good. But yeah, anyways, I don't mean to jump to Aramark. I just wanted to do.
You wanted to flex a little.
Well, no, I wanted to make sure that I knew stuff. And then I went home that night and I immediately started watching things.
Yeah, I'm fucking proud. And for those of you that haven't seen it, there's an incredible documentary called 13th on Netflix, and it was I believe it was Oscar nominated. I don't think it won for best documentary, but it was in that category and nominated. And it is really remarkable. And obviously it is not necessarily in support of the current prison system, but in general, they do a really nice breakdown. And I kind of want to follow their format in the sense that I'd like to talk a little bit about the history, the build up to where we are, and then because it's not just the privatization of the prison system that is so corrupt, it's also the system itself, the way it was created. And this dates all the way back, and the reason the documentary is called 13th is because it examines the 13th Amendment, the one that abolished slavery, and then how that's been used to kind of formulate the prison system in America.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, OJ Made in America beat out 13th, and it was 2017 as the Oscars. That
Oh, okay. Nice.
I thought I'd do a little, dive in while you
I
were
love it.
chatting it up there.
I love it.
But before we move any further, I do want to say this, because you said something that kind of piqued my interest.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned that the documentary was against the private prison system.
I wouldn't say it was against it. It highlighted everything about it, and it definitely had a lean.
And it didn't really necessarily talk to. It does go in depth on private prisons, but it goes more in depth on like its effect on
marginalized communities, specifically the black community in America.
But do you think that there's anybody who thinks that private prison systems are a good thing?
Absolutely, the people invested in them.
Good point.
Yeah,
but do you think that they're actually beneficial to the population? Do you think in their heart of hearts they're like, no, this is the way to go?
So here,
because there's no capitalism, you know what I mean?
Well,
there's no capitalism involved in prison system because it's not like people
shouldn't be. There is.
People are like, well, no, by that I mean like, so when they say capitalism works, it's because, you price out different things and you say, I'm going to go with this. But you can't, like, when you're going to jail, you're not like, send me to Rutgers.
Right.
I'll go to the Rock.
Yeah. I think, well, this is capitalism at its darkest self, right?
Okay, fair.
It's its most corrupted self, and that's why I get very frustrated with it. I do not think that anyone in their heart of hearts can say, yeah, private prison systems are going to be what's the most beneficial for American society. I think there's two camps that might be supportive of it, and that's those that are invested or those that write people off and say, well, they did the crime, now they do the time, I don't give a shit about them. And the problem with that mentality is, it's like people come back out of there and you want them to be rehabilitated. That's what prison, I mean, if you look around the world.
Well, I want to get into that too.
And I won't go far then. You look around the world, their prison systems are designed to rehabilitate people and then let them re-enter the world a better version of themselves. That's what they're designed for.
Yeah.
Now, there are instances. There was that one, was it a Swedish guy? He was like the mass shooter or whatever, and he went away. Like, those people are put away for life, whatever.
Yeah.
But in general, the prison systems are nowhere near what they are today. They're more like the white collar, the quote unquote white collar prisons where you committed white collar crime. You have your 3 nice meals a day. You have time to exercise, read. You have a TV in your room. All of that. You cohabitate with other people in the commons areas that are, there's education programs that are very strong and robust. Like all this opportunity for growth. And when you reenter society, you're less likely to say, "Oh, I should do that again." No, you're better equipped for the world around you.
Right. Yeah. But carry on though, because I interrupted you. I think you were going to get into a point there, Brad.
No, that's fine. What I will say, I have so many points, but you know what I want to start off with?
A 3-pointer?
Yes. I just want to give this large context of the American prison system. And it's this. And like when we talk about America being great and all this, I always think of how do we treat our sick? How do we treat our poor? How do we treat those that are in prison? And I look at 25% of the people incarcerated in the world's population 25% of the incarcerated population in the world resides in the United States. The
And
United
isn't it
States.
doesn't the United States only make up 5% of the world population?
5% of the population, of the world's population, is here in the United States. But 25% of the incarcerated population resides in the United States. And that does not include those that we incarcerate for immigrating here, quote unquote, illegally. Okay, so that has nothing to do with the immigration facilities. That is simply the prison system in America.
Another interesting statistic about that too, not to make it about race, but black people make up 6% of the population, but they make up something like it's either 46% or 49% of the prison population.
Yeah. It was around 40%. It's continuing to climb.
Yeah. It's pretty nuts, man.
Yeah, and that's the male population.
Correct, yes.
So 1 in 17 white men will at one point go into the American prison system. 1 in every 3 black men will go into the prison system. And there also is inequity between gender, right? Because men are more likely to spend time in prison than women.
Men are also more likely to have longer sentences, harsher sentences.
Yep.
Another interesting little fun fact. There's going to be a lot of stats in this one, obviously, and I think it's very important. This isn't like a statistical flex. We're not like Nora flexing her math skills. For those of us listening, or for those of you listening, for those of us listening, I'm definitely not going to listen to this. Hate the sound of my voice. But for those of you that are listening, we had Brian's daughter on our little warm-up on the YouTubes, and she's quite the math whiz. I mean,
she's pretty
very good. But the statistic, before I lose it in my head, that I want to spit out, is for the entire United States, there is one person in prison for every 107 people in population. One out of every 107.
And like, let's take a step back.
Step back, Brian.
Right, from all of this, the rights and the wrongs, the politics, the economics. I want people to just think about, and this is something that maybe I can reframe your perspective. If you're like, they do the crime, you do the time. But like, what is it that we are doing to another human being? And for some of those people, like let's say they commit murder, you killed someone, you raped someone. Okay, I understand that. But a lot of the prison population centers around drugs.
Petty drug offense too.
Breaking and entering, stuff like that. And while I don't condone any crime, it's very difficult for me to say we need to treat them worse than we would our dog at home, right? Like, dogs in a kennel are treated better than our prison population in general. And then we ask them to come out back into the world and somehow re-engage with it in a positive way and not go back to the place where at least they can get some food and sleep somewhere warm.
Well, that's the difference between the way that we look at the prison system in America versus the way that they look at the prison system overseas. Now, not every country is created equally, but like you said earlier, in Sweden, for instance, or in Norway, they put a person, it's not a punishment like it is here in the U.S. In the U.S., we're trying to punish you, whether it's for revenge, whether it's for, right and wrong. That's the way that we look at it here in the U.S., whereas overseas, a lot of the times it's a way to try to rehabilitate that person, find out what the core issue is, and then try to find ways to either fix that or engage with them and find solutions while having them out of the general population.
And I'm kind of under the Rousseau mindset, right? The blank canvas mindset that when people are born, they are a blank canvas, and what gets painted onto that canvas shapes who they are. And for a lot,
I've heard you say this before.
For a while,
it's a teacher thing.
Thanks. I thought that way about any student that walked in my classroom. Like, they could have, been straight Fs or straight As. They could have been a kid that was in the principal's office all the time, or just a sterling, academic record, whatever the case was, when they walked into my classroom, it was a blank slate. They had a new opportunity, a fresh start. And so when a person is born, in my mind, they are a fresh start. The environment around them shapes who they will be. And sometimes that leads people down a very dark and destructive path. Also, sometimes the environment you are thrust into. So, for instance, maybe you lost your family and your job, and then you have nothing, and you're now poor and homeless. Yeah. And that's why you're breaking and entering, because you're trying to find someplace warm, or you're trying to steal some bread, or whatever the case is. A lot of times crime is out of necessity. People always think of, we watch so much TV.
That we think that everybody who goes to jail is a murderer or some sicko or psychopath.
Yeah, it's a sicko. It's a psychopath, because that makes great television. That's a great fictional story.
And those are the kind of movies I want to watch about people going to prison. I don't want to watch a movie about like a poor person, or not poor as in money, but like a poor soul, as I don't know what to say, who just was down on their luck and had to steal a loaf of bread and then gets imprisoned.
Right, and I'm
copywriting that. I said it here first. Brian and I are going to make a movie about it.
That's one of the fundamental issues here that I find with our prison system as a whole. The prison system as a whole isn't designed to make society better. It's to remove this quote-unquote evil out of our culture and just push it to the side. But if you're going to do that, just lock them up forever. Like, if you're going to take away their liberty for a time and then not give them an equal chance when they come out, lock them away for good. Because when they come out of the prison system, they don't have rights. On every job application you see, have you ever been convicted of a felony? Have you?
Well, it's not just that; it's loans.
You lose your
right
to vote in a lot of states. You lose the opportunity for loans. You lose the opportunity for Social Security, because you don't get Social Security when you're doing the manual labor, which we'll talk about in the prison systems. And then you can't get life insurance. In a lot of instances, you can't get life insurance, which is like one of the easiest ways to build wealth in America.
Life insurance?
Yeah, because what you're doing is you're passing on money to your next. Mm-hmm. And so familial wealth, like the generational wealth that continues to get handed down, and now they can take that nest egg and use it towards a home or a business, and then you build off of that. They take out a life insurance policy, and then you also see a lot of the richest families, they'll have trusts, and they'll have multiple life insurance policies, because that is non-taxed. So,
lesson to all of you.
As someone who is incarcerated as a felon, a lot of times you don't have that ability when you come out to get life insurance.
So it's really just stacking the cards against you. I think it's interesting, too, if we can, because I like the direction you're going, Brian. Mm-hmm. I want to reel it back.
Okay.
I want to talk about the growth of the prison system.
Sure.
Is that okay? Am I jumping the gun? Because you're the one with the notes today.
So I want to actually take a step back, and I want to talk a little bit about the history.
I wanted to take a step back first.
So you want to do numbers first?
No, I want to take a look back at the prison system in general.
Okay.
Brian, we are not on the same page of your notebook.
So let's start with the abolition of slavery, right?
So you want to go the race route?
No, I want to go the route of history first, and let's build the full narrative to where we are today. And in the 13th Amendment, because this is important, it says, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. So that's the nuance here is, even when we were freeing the slaves, we allowed a clause that allowed for slavery.
Correct, yes.
So therein lies the issue, and that's for anyone that goes into prison, is we can use people as slaves, white, black, male, female, Hispanic. It doesn't matter, race, ethnicity, religion, doesn't matter who you are. If you go to jail, your servitude can be for labor that never gets paid back. It can. And the 13th Amendment, which we all say, oh, this is the greatest thing. And, the abolitionists were so excited about this, but we didn't realize that that specific clause that said, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted. So if you are convicted of a crime, you can still be a slave, and they do that through the prison system. Now, that was abused mostly by whites against blacks early on. Today, I would say that it's the corporation versus the people in general. I don't think it's as important for people to hold a specific race down. I think now it's to maintain profits. I think it's easier to hold races down because you have that unwavering backing of certain, white supremacists or racists and bigots and stuff like that. But I think more than anything, the most important piece for people now with the prison system is the profit margin. So you got to keep people in there one way or another.
Bill Clinton found a way.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Minimum sentences.
Yeah.
They have to serve up to 85% of their maximum sentence.
Yep.
So if that's for like violent crimes, mostly is where that comes in. But a lot of drug crimes too is also it also plays a factor as well.
So we can kind of dial it up because
next part in history, Brian. Go.
Well, no, I know a lot of people.
You have me intrigued.
Okay, well, a lot of people.
My
already
interest
know.
is piqued.
A lot of people already know about the idea of Jim Crow, but I want to stick to the prison system. So I'm going to skip a little bit ahead against like the race war.
Yeah.
And then talk about Nixon, Richard Milhouse Nixon.
Yeah.
Decided to create the war on crime.
Yeah.
Now, this wasn't only specific to the blacks in America. It had a huge chunk of that. And the idea was, hey, we're going to punish the people that are going against the government's will. And there were two major groups at this time period that were doing that. And that was the hippie culture.
Yep.
Right? Trying to go against Vietnam and kind of rebel against the authority and all of that. So you had marijuana involvement. And then you also had the war on crime with the blacks in the civil rights movement.
Correct.
So the idea here was the war on crime was not insurance fraud. It was crime in the streets, which actually wasn't
people
crime.
who spoke out against the government.
Right.
It was very British of them.
Yeah. And when we say that there was crime in the streets, it wasn't like there were like these muggings going on in the streets. It was just protests that we know Martin Luther King, was a part of these protests and being jailed and stuff like that. People doing sit-ins, right?
Yeah.
Right. So they would go and they'd sit at the restaurant counter and, this is whites only. You need to, remove yourself. And they wouldn't. And so that was considered a crime. They'd be pulled out and beaten and then thrown in the slammer.
Not always beaten, but sometimes beaten.
Sure. That's true.
I think that's a fair point to make there, Brian.
Yeah.
They weren't always beaten. Was it Nixon's chief of staff who was like our campaign manager that was leaked? There was like a audio of him saying basically listen, this is really going to negatively affect the black community.
Yeah. It was quite clear what the target was. And it was basically anyone that didn't meet the same political stance is the Nixon administration. And we see this with, J. Edgar Hoover going after Martin Luther King and Malcolm X.
Right.
Like the
Certainly.
FBI, like the police were being weaponized against the marginalized community, specifically the black community at the time, but also like these hippies who were trying to say, hey, we shouldn't be in a senseless war. I'm not going to fight it. I don't want my brother to go fight it. I don't want my friends to go fight it. And so, there was this rebellion happening. And in order to squash that rebellion, they created the war on crime.
Right. And I don't remember the exact numbers there, but it jumped by over like 100,000, 150,000 people or something like that that entered into the prison system.
Right.
But then we see, can I jump ahead to Reagan? Is that okay?
Oh, please.
Okay. Because we see this again as we jump ahead to Reagan. Are you catching a theme here?
It's presidents.
It's the fucking presidents.
And for those of you that are like, oh, there's just Brian going off on the Republicans again because, Reagan and Nixon. Okay.
Oh, that's not where I was
coming.
going.
Clinton's coming. Don't you worry.
Yeah. Him and his stupid wife. That goddamn dirty. I'm not going to say it because it's a female, and that's not respectful.
Good.
Bitch. I can say that. I was going to go with the W word.
What? White?
No. Whore?
Oh.
Starts with a W, right?
Oh, my God.
Fact check me.
Either way.
I'm jumping ahead to Reagan.
Either way.
It's not a Republican thing is what Brian's trying to say. No, it is a who is filling your money with pockets kind of thing. Because we're going to get into the CCA as we get further into this. I don't want to jump the gun too much because I'm sure Brian would love to talk about the CCA.
Yeah.
But I think they started in like the 60s or 50s or 60s, I believe. Double check me on that. I'm not sure.
I'll
not
check.
sure.
You go ahead and.
But anyways, so we reach the era of Reagan, and Reagan decides that this is, of course, during the time of the crack epidemic, crack cocaine. They've decided to not go with powdered cocaine, but make it hard. And this, of course, made it cheaper, the way that they were doing it, the things that they were cutting it with. So a majority of the people that were doing crack cocaine were marginalized people who lived in lower income areas. And so Reagan comes in, he decides to crack down and have a war on drugs. And so...
And see, that's a really important thing to note is like crack cocaine and cocaine are the exact same substance. It is a more refined version of the first. It's like saying, oh, I aged this scotch a little bit longer, and therefore it's a little more expensive. So I'm going to penalize scotch drinkers that are 12 years and younger versus 15 and older, and I'm only going to punish these people versus the ones with the more expensive ones.
Yeah.
That's what was happening. It was simply an economic thing. And obviously the economics would think like, well, in less privileged areas socioeconomically, in the urban areas, there's going to be more crack cocaine because it is the same substance. It is just a cheaper form. So therefore, I'm going to go after, if I want to target those people specifically, I'm going to target the substance that they use, not the general substance that would punish everyone.
Yeah. So we talked about the increase that happened after Nixon. Well, this increase after Reagan was far higher. We're talking hundreds and hundreds of thousands more people were incarcerated and did time in jail. Obviously, again, this is negatively affecting mostly the black community.
You know, the Reagan era of the war on drugs was most notably thought of for, with Nancy Reagan's Just Say No. Like it was this idea of like,
oh, Nancy,
Dare America, right? The drug-free America with the Dare program and Just Say No and the Red Ribbon program. So it was branded in a way that was, hey, we're just trying to keep drugs out of the hands of children. And who can argue with that? That's one of the most crazy things about all of this is this idea that these political parties know how to brand movements for the most evil ventures, but make it seem so that it's what's best for the kids, or it's what's best for America, or the family in general. Whatever the case is, they have this spin on things that it's what's best for the kids or doing best for America. And
listen,
that's
kids not doing drugs is a great thing.
Yeah.
Not the point that we're getting at here.
Yeah. And when we talk about drugs today, right? The idea of the overprescription that is happening in American culture.
Look at Purdue Farm.
Yeah, with opioids as painkillers, with Adderall for or overprescribing for ADHD. Now there are people out there who have significant cases of ADHD and need therapy and medication to get through it. And I'm not saying that that's not the case, but the amount of prescriptions that are happening in order to just kind of bring these children down is bonkers to me. And then we can say, well, yeah, no, but you can't use marijuana. And it's like, well, how come they can use certain pharmaceuticals and then not other things?
I don't know what HD is, but my doctor says I have 80 of them. That's from TikTok.
That's a good one.
I love that one.
That's good. They fit in really well there.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's very interesting watching the numbers up through the Reagan era. What's scary is what happens even after the Reagan era, because this continues on. So between 1980 and the year 2000, you're looking at going from about 500,000 people incarcerated to over 1.5 million, and even like today, where it's at what was it like? I think in 2016 it was 2.2 million people incarcerated in the United States. 2.3 million people incarcerated in the United States. It's incredible.
I think there's been like 1 or 2 down years that we've had since the 80s in terms of incarceration rate, and that was, I think there were 2 years under Obama at the end of his term.
Yeah, well, thanks, Obama.
Actually, thank you.
Yeah, well, who knows if it was actually him that did it.
No, he was actually I think he was the first sitting president
to visit a prison.
Yeah.
That's absolutely correct. That is I fact-checked it earlier. I knew you were going to say it. Because we're so in sync. Go on, Joey.
Thank you.
And that's crazy too, because you know what? And again, referencing other countries, in some countries they are actually closing prisons because they don't have the need for them. Yeah. They're shutting down, not all of them obviously, but certain prisons, because there's like, oh well, shit, we don't even have enough people in this. Just move them over to the other one.
And let's do a quick. Do you remember in your textbook, whether it was history, science, or whatever, you'd always have those like little magnifying glass, and it would pull something out, and then like you'd have this other text box, and it'd be like, hey, let's magnify this, and like let's talk about this within the actual text. Let's do that with another little CCA blurb, right? CCA, which
Fuckers.
is. Which is
we're never going to have any huge corporate donors.
The Corrections Corporation of America. One thing that their contracts guarantee is 96% capacity.
Yep.
So they have to contractually have 96%, which is bonkers to me. Whereas other countries are actively rooting for people to get out of the prison system and become an active member of their society, become a citizen again, and uphold your citizenry values, and let's move in towards a positive direction of your life.
Do you want to know what their profits were in 2016, 2017?
What?
Over $1.5 billion. 1.5 billion with a B.
There are a lot of companies that are profiting, and ones that I did not even think.
Oh, absolutely.
But let's continue.
CCA.
Well, yeah, CCA, but like other companies, which we'll talk about later, but like companies that we all use, like their product. But here nor there. Let's continue on. You wanted to talk a little bit about our buddy Bill Clinton.
I believe you really wanted to talk about
Well,
Bill.
I'm really frustrated because I have always been one of those people that says Bill Clinton did a lot of good, but he did a lot of shitty things too.
He did well for the economy, but that's also because it was the 90s and like everyone's economy was doing like pretty decent.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Bill Clinton was not really great for the criminal justice system.
No, and I think what was happening at the time was you had Republicans and Democrats actually very close to what they are. And that would be pretty right of center in terms of the world political spectrum. But the American politics really overlapped a great deal. So you had to kind of separate yourself in a way that, like, how is Bill Clinton going to stand out from Newt Gingrich, right? Like, how do you separate yourself in a way that appeals not only to the left, but the center?
Can I tell you how?
How?
Coming down harsh on criminals, harsh on crime.
And that's the one thing that a lot of the American population, certainly in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and usually the early 2000s, and we're starting to move away from it a little bit.
Right.
But that was a central thing that everyone could agree on. Crime is bad, and people need to be punished for their crimes and do it like they need to pay a great deal.
And listen to that verbiage, too. That's important, and that keeps ringing throughout this podcast so far today. And that is people, they need to be punished. They need to be punished. And that's not always the case. Sometimes they just need help.
Yes. And you know, people always think,
Listen
okay,
to me, Brian.
I
I'm
agree.
floating right along with you today.
I agree. And I'm super excited you bring up that piece because, you know, the idea that, and I mentioned this earlier, is like, it's not just the drug users that need help.
I don't think they should even go to prison. I think anybody who gets caught using drugs, not selling drugs, should go to a rehabilitation facility.
Yeah, not like a prison rehab.
No.
But like actual rehab.
And send them somewhere nice like fucking Malibu.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's
I mean, I hate to give the money.
cost.
I hate to give that money to California, but whatever.
Do you know how much? Well, do you know how much it costs per year per prisoner?
Oh, I thought you were asking me in the Malibu rehabilitation.
No,
I was
no.
like, I do know that. It's
No.
$50,000 a month.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for the Malibu rehabilitation.
So $6 million a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we spend
Anyways.
a little bit less. We spend about $135,000 on a prisoner every year,
Yeah.
which is insane to me.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Well,
But you know, to go back and it's not just the drug users or even the drug dealers, but like sometimes people commit crime out of necessity. Like they're stealing for, you know, trying to. Everyone has this picture of like even a gang thug stealing so he can get the new Jordans or whatever. But
Yeah.
a lot of times that's not the case. They're trying to steal because, you know, grandma needs medicine or medical bills paid for.
Mm-hmm.
You know, another major issue with America. But you know, they have to operate in a way that is based strictly off of need. It's not just wants. And then they commit a crime and they get busted. And then when you get out, people are very, very likely to go almost immediately back into the system. In our system in general, the prison system, you know, our workforce system is designed to make that happen.
62% of all people who are released from prison go back.
It is designed to be that way because you are asked a question on every single job application. Did you commit a felony? And if so, what? And you have to say that. And it's like, they're not going to hire you. So where are you getting a job? Now, how are you're getting a minimum wage job? You can't afford your rent. Now you're not upholding your parole, right? Part of your parole might be you need to have somewhere where you are paying rent and living on your own. And if you can't do that, you might get sent right back in.
Yeah. Well, actually, interestingly enough on that point, so Sweden gets a lot of shit about the way that they do their prison system.
Okay.
And I won't go too far into it because I know that you still have other things that you want to maybe go to on that subject. But what's interesting is, so like, for instance, Sweden, they are continually, their number of people going to prison and staying in prison is decreasing. Mm-hmm. It's consistent year in and year out, unlike America, which is trends quite the opposite. Mm-hmm. But they have a pretty controversial prison system that is a open prison system, which is where basically they have to go to, the prison is basically like a dorm. And they go to this dorm, there's TVs, there's a common room, much like the prisons in Norway. They cook for themselves, they have a commissary where they have goods. But what I think is really interesting and really cool is that they have jobs. Like, they go out and they work and they make money for themselves or for their family, and they can still see their family. Mm-hmm. There's super strict curfews on it. And not only that, too, there's they're monitored electronically. Mm-hmm. Their location, where they're going, what they're doing, all that kind of stuff is monitored. And it kind of sounds like, oh, gosh, well, what if they did something pretty bad? Well, if they did something very bad, they go to a closed facility, first of all. But mm-hmm. there's still some people that go in there that may be a little bit iffy. But, like, the rate at which they go back to prison is only 23%. 23% were reoffenders. I mean, they are truly working on rehabilitation. And I thought that was very, very interesting. I mean, the thing that is so shocking to me is this. People complain about, not complain, but people, talk about universal health care. Well, it works in this country. It works in that country. It does this. And sometimes the numbers get fuzzy. Sometimes there's stories of wait line or wait times and all that kind of stuff. Here's something where, like, the numbers are so clear cut. Why haven't we done it yet? Like, you really want your people to get better? Here's how you do it. Check it out. Now, granted, because I know somebody, well, hopefully somebody says this in the comment section. Comment, guys. Like, share, subscribe. Somebody's going to come at me and say, oh, well, it's a totally different population. That's totally true. Absolutely. And I think America has the most violent crimes out of any country.
I don't know.
Or it's up there. I don't know that to be fact. Fact check.
I mean, I have a hard time believing it's so staggering that it's...
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. Here's where I should go with that, actually, because this is a good opportunity to hit this. People who have drug problems, people who have issues and are stealing out of necessity, doing things out of necessity, people are doing things because they have a mental illness and just haven't been diagnosed or haven't had the means to be diagnosed. Here's the time to shine. You know what I mean? Because you would have this chance to truly be rehabilitated, maybe sort out some issues that you have going on, maybe find some underlying problem. You know, this would be that perfect thing for those people who are offenders, maybe first-time offenders, maybe even second-time offenders, but it's nonviolent crimes. It's people who are having issues with drugs, people who are stealing because they need things, all that.
I agree.
That's what I'm saying, Brian.
No, I agree. And I'm glad you talked a little bit about
That's what The Rock is cooking.
I'm glad you talked a little bit about the European system, specifically Sweden.
Oh, I'm going to get into Norway later.
Which is, I'm very excited. But I do want to wrap up at least Clinton before we continue.
Yes,
on.
sorry.
No, you're doing great. You talked about the mandatory sentences, right?
Yeah.
So the idea
85%.
that 85% of the sentence has to be served. So it kind of takes out that idea of like the day for day system was like you could, if you were on good behavior, you worked your jobs or whatever, like you were in the laundry or whatever the case was, you could get day for day. So your sentence would essentially be reduced by half.
Yep.
There's no incentivization to do a good sentence or be, you know, well behaved in your sentence. You're gonna fulfill that sentence regardless. As long as you don't kill someone in the prison, you're not going to extend your sentence, but you're not going to really decrease it by much.
Well, and another good way to do that, and I'm not trying to jump out of Clinton, but you made me remember a good point too.
Okay.
Overseas too, something they do great. I'm honestly this whole research for this made me fascinated about like other prison systems. Because I wouldn't call them prison systems, I would call them truly like rehabilitation systems.
Yeah.
The guards in Sweden and also in Norway, they have to take a 2-year program. It's specifically designed for people who are going into the prison system for work. And it's basically they are not only a guard because they take like self-defense, how to, diffuse situations, all that kind of stuff, but they also they're basically social workers. And they are like encouraged to interact with the prisoners, or people with the people that are incarcerated. I don't like to say with the prisoners.
That's actually, I'm impressed by that too.
So the occurrences of violence towards guards or violence towards other people that are incarcerated with you is so like I don't remember the exact numbers, but it's a huge difference, a significant difference, a Donald Trump-like difference. Because I said huge. Huge. Bill Clinton. I'm sorry.
No, that's brilliant, and I love the way you framed it in a way.
This is my sales pitch for a fucking Swedish prison in the U.S. Made in America, of course.
No, made with IKEA parts.
Oh God, very easy to break out.
So going back to Clinton, we also had the 3-strike rule. So three violent crimes and you're in prison for life. But that 3-strike rule kind of set the tone for a lot of other states. And so while, a lot of these of his 1994 crime bill didn't impact as many as some might think, what it did was set the tone for states. And usually the more conservative a state was, the more harsh they were in the penalization of people convicted of crimes. And so therefore they were likely to have 3 strikes rules regardless of if it was violent or not. Like you could have that where, someone stole a car, tried to rob someone and then got into a bar fight, that's 3 strikes. They could be facing a life in prison, or 3 drug charges could land you in prison. Like you bought
a
bag of weed 3 different times. You could be in prison for that. And now,
which if you buy weed 3 times from an undercover cop, you're doing something wrong.
well, you might just be caught or planted.
Yeah,
It could have been planted. So the idea here is, this is something that people are going to spend their entire life having to pay a price for, and it's something that a lot of states now consider legal. Now, federally, it's not. But unfortunately, our federal government hasn't caught up to some of the more progressive states regarding the legalization of marijuana. But this is something that people are spending their entire lives in prison for, while you and I could go down the street to the cannabis store, down the block on 31 and just go get some edibles and do a podcast on YouTube for it.
I want to ask you a question about that, and maybe this will make me seem naive, but I just don't know the answer, so I want to ask.
No, go for it.
Anybody who's been arrested for marijuana charges, now that it's legal in Illinois, do they just let those prisoners out?
No.
And why not?
And so that's a really big piece of the puzzle. Why do you think not? Because CCA has to keep their contracts.
You see how I set you up?
The private prisons have
every
to keep
once in a while
their,
I can do something cool.
Up. Yeah. When we get to it, there's also so many other companies benefiting off of this, profiting off of this, capitalizing off of this, if you will, in a way that the system has to stay still. Otherwise, some of these companies might fail without the abuses of this in American culture.
Fucking Idaho potatoes, dude.
Did that
planted?
catch you? So you watched 13th as well,
motherfucker.
Yeah.
Yes, I watched it.
I love it.
I said, Brian's watching this. Let me see what it's all about.
Yeah.
First of all,
did that not catch you off guard?
Yeah.
Hold on. We got to finish Clinton. One last thing.
God damn,
One last thing.
We keep
no. That one was on me.
It's a lot of subject
because we were doing 3 strikes and then we digressed. There's one last thing that Clinton did that came with the I should call it the war crime bill, but the crime bill of 1994, and that was the militarization of police. That's when we started to see police forces get all of that SWAT gear and these tank style vehicles, and the amount of equipment that they were getting was military grade equipment, and you don't give people equipment that you don't want them to use. So it had to get to a point where the instruction met the practice. And so there was going to be more practice in using those military grade equipment pieces, whether it's vehicles, whether it was equipment, or whether it was tactics. Whatever the case was, it was going to be used more. Now, to take a step back, and as much as I do blame Bill Clinton for this, in the mid-2000s, in the mid-2000s, I think it was 2010s or so, he did take a step back and say the crime bill of 1994 was a mistake.
Yeah, so did Hillary when she was getting ready to run for president in 2016. She dropped back on it hard.
Did she really?
Oh,
I didn't catch
You can
that.
find some good speeches of it.
Okay. So acknowledging that is good in a way, but the damage is already done.
Yeah,
right?
she didn't take blame for it or anything like that.
Well, she shouldn't have.
Well,
I don't blame Laura Bush for Iraq and Afghanistan.
She pushed it really hard in the 90s.
Yeah, I don't blame Nancy Reagan for just say no.
Yeah, that's because Nancy Reagan just seems sweet.
Yeah, well, you do have a hint of bias against Hillary.
No, it's not a hint.
I like dash.
I like to be completely.
A pinch?
I feel like I'm very transparent, Brian. I think everyone knows that I really don't like Hillary Clinton.
Well, I don't like her very much either. But I think
I'm more verbal about it.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that she's a terrible person.
Yeah.
But anybody who I think is a terrible person, I come out and say.
Yeah, I mean that's fair.
Don't worry, Brian.
I don't know them.
You didn't
as a
make
person.
the list.
Oh, thank goodness.
Oh God, I don't know if I want to meet Hillary in person.
But that kind of sums up the Clinton era of the prison system, and it really centers around the Crime Bill of 1994, which was widely approved, right? Like, the American public really bought into it. Like, yeah, someone commits a crime 3 times, they deserve to go to prison for life. Get them out here. We can't do anything. But, the first and second strikes, it's not like they were getting rehabilitated. It's not like they were getting set up for success and then they failed again.
Well,
right?
and the thing is, too, the general American, general public is not thinking to themselves, like, oh, this person just bought 3 dime bags.
Right.
And they, you know what I mean? That's not what they're thinking. They're thinking like people who have murdered, people who have stolen, people, whatever. You know what I mean? Like that's what they're imagining. It's just like what we were saying earlier. People going, when you picture a person going to prison, it's, the murderer, the guy who committed the heist from the most recent movie that you just saw.
Right.
Or the most recent episode of CSI.
Yeah, people have watched way too much Law and Order.
God. Was it Nixon or was it was Nixon, Reagan, or
Dick
Clinton?
Wolf. Dick Wolf made Law and Order.
Oh, shut up. No, who ran? Yeah.
And there's your eargasm for the day.
Somebody scream. Oh, that's good. Shit. Who was it that when they were running? I think it might have been Clinton, where he's like, "I am a law and order president."
Well, a lot of
Listen
people
here,
were
you
making
son
those.
of a bitch.
A lot of people made those claims because Law and Order,
Polls well.
Democrats and Republicans alike generally favor a tough on crime, and that was one of the reasons Biden chose Kamala Harris, is she had a very, very liberal voting record in the Senate. But when she was an attorney general in California, she had a very
She was throwing away people and hiding the evidence. She was hiding all the things that proved they weren't guilty.
The evidence.
Brian,
she said we're not going to retry them.
No, there was literally a case where she was trying to withhold evidence.
No, she didn't bury it.
She kept it above ground, Brian. I'm not. Don't get into semantics with me.
So
don't worry, she's not.
Clinton,
she's going to run in 2024. She's not going to win.
Well, I would vote for her against Trump, but
if she runs against Trump
in the primary, I do not think.
I don't think she'll make it through. She didn't make it through the primaries last time.
No, I agree. I don't think she would the next time. And
Bernie Sanders, if you're listening, just give it one more go.
Oh God,
just do it one more time, buddy.
I don't care if he rose out of a grave like the Crypt Keeper.
I just want. You know what? Again, I say this all the time because I like Bernie Sanders because I think he's genuinely a good human being.
Yes.
Just where you and I can disagree slightly on things.
Yes.
I can disagree slightly with Bernie. I can disagree with in big degrees with Bernie. But that man he's a solid human being. I can just tell it.
Yeah.
And if it turns out that he's murdering people and hiding them in his basement, I'll be very disappointed. Oh, if they're bad guys, I'm okay with it. Like if they're serial killers, what did that cereal do to you? You son of a bitch, other than bring you joy.
I kill boxes of cereal all the time.
Oh, that made me very
But
happy.
no, I think a lot of politicians claim to be law and order politicians in order to swing that centrist vote.
Yeah.
That is a very, very widely, a widely appreciated term by the voting public, and that is, I care about law and order. And I understand people feeling that way. They want to feel safe in their homes. They want to feel safe in their communities, and therefore they want there to be law and order. But the problem is it has to be justified law and justified order. You can't just say, I want law and order, meaning I want my white picket fence American dream, and it has to come at the sacrifice of others.
Yeah.
But
no, I agree 100%.
Another thing that kind of I think is important is we've talked about it in the past, but this is where voting rights really starts to come into play.
If you want to take away the voting rights of somebody, send them away to a federal prison for a felony. They go.
And who is the most likely to go to prison? And we already mentioned it.
Men.
Men. Specifically, what men?
Minorities. But actually, I think there's more No, there's not more white people. They do. It is black people that make up the majority of the prison system. I had to think back to my statistics. I got a whole lot of them running through my head,
No.
and I don't want to go with like some sort of like a racist generalization.
Right. And so, yes, you were trying to not stereotype.
Yeah.
And the thing is here is the stereotype is true, and it's not all at fault on the black community. The black community, the black men in America are more likely than any social group in America to be imprisoned.
Are they the most likely to commit a crime? I'd be curious to see that statistic, just because like this one, you're like this is one of those subject matters you can go into and like you just immediately want to know all the stats and like read a bunch of charts and graphs.
Right. But if we're looking at it, you know, the statistical likelihood of a white man being 1 in 17 and 1 in every 3 black men, it just shows like statistically there's a lot of inequity there. And yes, black men might possibly commit more crimes, but you know, like we said, there's crimes of necessity, there's non-violent crimes that they're getting punished.
Can I share another little tidbit with you? Sure. This will be a nice little gold nugget for you to put in your treasure chest there, Gay. So, ironically enough, more white men are arrested, as in arrested and, you know, brought up, not necessarily brought before a jury. More black men and minorities are convicted. Also, poor people as well. Poor people are lumped into that as well. Mm-hmm. It's a big discrepancy there. But the reason being is that these you know, black gentlemen, black ladies that get brought before the courts, a lot of them take plea deals because the prosecution comes out there and says to them, listen, if you don't plead guilty to this, or if you plead guilty to this, I'll only put you in for 3 years. If you plead not guilty, when we win, I'm going to put you away for 30.
Yep. And a lot of times in the marginalized communities, specifically lower socioeconomic communities, you have people without the means to afford a proper defense, and therefore they're getting a public defender who sometimes might be a whiz kid just out of college and just hasn't gotten their chops yet.
There's a lot of great public defenders.
A lot of times they are not as well equipped as the prosecution.
Well, they get paid dog shit. They work more hours. They have...
Yeah, they're over encumbered. They have 50 cases.
Yeah, well, sometimes hundreds of cases.
Right.
You know what I mean? From the most minor, like, traffic stops to the, you know.
And if you're overworked and you have so much work, you're going to try and start skimming and do as much as you can with what you got. And so you're going to look at these cases and they're like, hey, they're facing 20 years and I can get them to plead down to 3. Like, that's a win for my person that the person I'm representing. So therefore I need to go for that plea deal. I need to talk them into it. I want to sell them on this plea deal, and there are instances where they are absolutely not guilty, and so they're taking this plea deal. You have a lot of language barriers, too. So you have people that you speak English as a first language, and therefore all they're hearing is time and how long they're going to be there, and they don't know how to explain themselves out of the situation or, you know, rationalize with their lawyer, their public defender.
I think a lot of times there's translators there.
Well, I'm just saying they're not.
I mean, I guess it depends on
they're not grasping
the language,
what is going on, and they might accept a plea deal that is not suitable for them. And like you said, that's going to lead to a lot of issues. So therefore, if I want to decrease the voting population, specifically in urban areas, I can do this with a war on crime, a war on drugs, specifically drugs in that area versus more affluent suburban areas. I can ensure that they're getting mandatory sentences, and if they're 3 strikes, they have to serve the full sentence and possibly a life sentence. And all of a sudden, I'm depreciating the amount of voters in the area, and then I actively work at creating legislation that continues to go against those communities because the people that would vote against it no longer can.
Well, did you create the legislation or did Alec?
Ooh, good call. The American Legislative Exchange?
Erection Council.
Yes, erection.
Levity today is going to be a little bit more vulgar because it's hard to make jokes about people being in prison. But I nailed it.
You did. Alec is an organization
who literally just writes legislation. Hey, you know what it's made up of, Alec? Politicians, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Corporation owners.
Massive corporations.
Walmart, AT&T, Verizon.
Koch brothers, big pharma, big tobacco.
Boom, 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 boom. All them suckers. Now, a lot of them have distanced themselves from ALEC.
Right.
For one reason or another.
It's one reason.
The CCA?
No. The reason they distanced themselves from it is they got caught and they realized they're going to lose profits if they stay engaged with it.
Oh. Yeah, that's
it.
a good point, yeah.
There's only one reason.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they literally make the legislation to the point where it says insert name here.
Yeah.
Insert state name here.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to spell the name of your state, that's where we're at politically.
I think it's really interesting, and this was referenced in 13th, was the idea that the prison system is a quote-unquote growth industry, which is absolutely baffling to me. Like, the idea that you can control your profits by having more and more people go into the system. And this isn't a good system. This isn't like, hey, this is going to make people better by making them go through this mechanism. But instead, it's penalizing the culture as a whole. But you can create a growth strategy by creating new legislation. And all they have to do is make sure that the punishments are harsher, that the people are more likely to get full sentences or mandatory sentences, or you lobby to have certain politicians in place or even judges in place. You can see that in certain areas, judges rule differently, and therefore they are more likely to have harsher sentences on certain people. This all plays in to the privatization and the profit margin that's happening. And the profits, I think, was somewhere around, I think it was like $200 billion. Okay, so the government spends $80.7 billion on public prisons and jails and $3.9 billion on private jails. So even the private ones, the government has to kick in some of the money, not just the state, but like the U.S. government. So state prisons also have to, kick back to these private companies as well.
Yeah. The CCA they got their start in Tennessee, is that right?
Yeah, I believe so. Just outside of Memphis.
Just when I thought only good things came out of Memphis.
Yeah. Well, and, so there's been a lot of education surrounding prison reform and a lot of effort. And, Kim Kardashian,
yeah,
no joking,
yeah,
brought a lot of this to light under the Trump administration. And it was one of the few good things I think the Trump administration did was sign some prison reform. Now, I haven't looked at all of it, but from what I've heard, it was actually good reform, and it's moving us in the right direction. I don't know what else there is because I know his family is well invested in the CCA, but in general, I think we're moving in the right direction. So what are the CCAs of the world? What are the American Bail Associations doing in order to do this?
Easy. They're investing in parole companies. They're investing in bail bonds, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and so, the idea of bail, right, is something that some states are going away from, which I think it's not really for violent crimes. It's like crimes like drug crimes or whatever. But basically, bail is the most obvious answer when it comes to, hey, we're splitting the rich up from the poor, right? We're splitting the whites up from the marginalized communities, the minority communities. It's the most obvious one because the bail sentencings are often different.
Just the wealthy against the poor.
Well, no, because you can look at the amount of bail is often tilted in favor of white. But in general, you're talking wealthy versus poor, and poor people cannot afford bail on their own, so they go to perhaps a bail bondsman, and they're paying interest on it, whatever the case is, or they haven't even gone to trial, and they're already in prison. You have a lot of people awaiting their trial for which they might be found not guilty, and they're sitting wasting away in the prison system already. Now, the average daily wage for a prisoner, do you know what it is?
I don't.
The daily wage of a prisoner is 86 cents.
Sick.
So instead of working even a minimum wage job,
You can't even get 2 gumballs for that.
nope, you cannot. And so you're sitting in a system where you cannot make money
Chew
for
gum.
yourself, and all of a sudden you're being held for a crime you didn't commit, but because you can't afford bail, you're going to be stuck in a prison system where you can't do anything for yourself or your family. Now think about that. You might have been the provider for the family. You know, the spouse might have been incapacitated, non-existent, or wasn't really facilitating in the financial services providing for the finances of the family. And so now that person is stuck in jail and they are making 86 cents a day. You now have a family that is dropping further and further below the poverty line. They have no assistance. What are those kids likely to become? Probably criminals out of necessity.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not, but it's likely. They're not going to be going to school. They might have to go to work. They might have to steal. They might have to get into drug dealing, whatever the case is. This is a cyclical thing, and it's boosting the profits of companies like the CCA. This is what they want, and this is the problem. And the other problem with this is that policymakers aren't doing their job to protect the American public. This is their job, is to protect the good of all Americans. And when they're making policy instead to put people away for longer so that their investments grow stronger, I have a very big issue with that. And this is why I wanted to talk about it, is because an hour plus into this live stream and this podcast, I'm hitting the nail on the head right now. Is the system is broken, and the people in charge with fixing the system for the American people are utilizing that break in the system to line their own fucking pockets. And it absolutely angers me. And this is why you have to have conversations with people. This is why you have to have those challenging talks. This is why Kevin and I made a podcast about politics, about general news.
No, I just made a podcast to hang out with you. Listen, you bitch.
We did that. We did this to say, hey, you can have the conversation. You can have the tough talks with people. And they need to happen for change to happen. Because eventually, you will be in a position where you are the silenced party. And who will speak up for you? So it's your job as someone who is not silenced right now to speak up for those that are. We saw it in things like the Holocaust. Oh, well, that's not my group. That's not my group. And what happens, right? And that's how it always happens within politics. When people are disengaged and apathetic, injustices like this continue to happen.
I feel like I should end the podcast with a joke. I don't even know. No, there needs to be change. It's not just prison systems, it's a lot of things. But if you guys have time and you look into prison systems, first of all, get ready to get pissed off. Like I get pissed off when I watch The Big Short.
Did you know? Here's another little fact. Like,
Boom.
let me take a step back.
Fact me.
Okay. 30% of the voting age population in Alabama can't vote.
Yeah.
Because they've had a felony.
Yeah.
And you wonder why they're so...
Louisiana, too.
Yeah.
It's higher in Louisiana.
You wonder why change never happens in those areas.
Yeah.
And I'm not even talking about, like, going red versus blue, but I'm talking about at the municipality level. I'm talking about the state level.
Yeah.
Not just flipping the state red or blue,
Yeah.
but actually getting some change that benefits the majority of human beings in a state. That is the most frustrating part about this whole system. Is democracy is supposed to be what benefits the majority. And when we are consistently working against the majority in both legal and illegal ways, democracy is doomed to fail, and that's why we have to have these conversations. That's why we need to talk about things like, privatization of prison systems. And it's like, well, that doesn't affect me. It could one day. It could affect one of your family members. It could affect your family. And here's another thing. Okay, so your family, right? Like, let's say someone's uncle is in jail. You know, the amount of money being made off of that person, not only by the prison system that's been privatized, but the companies surrounding it. You brought it up earlier. You brought up Aramark, Why don't you talk about that just real quick? Say exactly what you said earlier. Talk about that.
Repeat myself?
Yes, please.
I can do that.
Okay.
Nailed it. I was been preparing for this moment my whole life. That's why I have children. I repeat myself all the time. No, Aramark, I think it's the largest actually food provider for prison systems. But there's like the regulation on it, not necessarily regulation, but like the actual time and effort that goes into making sure that these prisoners are eating good food and everything like that. Food that isn't past its expiration date is almost zero. And so there are, I think it's 3 or 4 states now that their prisons have been sued by the inmates because they were finding maggots and larvae inside the food.
It's incomprehensible. And the thing that startled me the most was I thought, like, you know, I've watched shows like Orange is the New Black, which actually is a pretty good depiction of how shitty the prison management is. But also the phones. It is said, okay, that $2.9 billion a year in profit is made off of the phones in the commissary.
Yeah.
$2.9 billion. And you're doing it in a way where people have to use those resources. That's like saying, hey, you need energy in your home. We're going to jack up the prices 5x because we feel like it this year versus the year before. Like someone was buying Frito-Lays for 80 cents out of a vending machine, and now they're spending $2 on it on a commissary. There's no extra cost. You're not getting extra value. You're not getting a family size. It is the exact same product.
Well, back to the phone calls, too. Something that's very interesting about that is even if you were getting paid minimum wage, which most of these prisoners are not, if you worked an entire 40-hour work week, you'd make something like a $305, take out some taxes and stuff like that.
Jesus.
It costs $150 for a 10-minute conversation on the phone when you're in prison. I knew the answer to that, Brian.
And
you're welcome.
You're asking someone to come out of there a better person, but you're going to withhold things that people require. You're withholding them the simplest joys in life, a bag of chips, a phone call with mom. You are withholding the bare necessities of life, not just what makes people flourish, like an education or a passion project or religion or whatever the case is for you, something that makes you flourish. You're withholding the bare necessities of life. And
the simple bare necessities.
You're asking them to then move and transition from that setting into society again and be better for it? Give me a fucking break. And you know how much someone loses over the life of their life wealth, like what they would have accumulated over their lifetime if they've been incarcerated. And I'm not saying for their life, like if they're sentenced to life, they're going to lose out on a lot more. But just by being incarcerated, they're going to lose about $500,000 of wealth over the span of their life because they won't get the same jobs. They will have spent time in the prison making 86 cents a day for companies like Victoria's Secret, making bras, JCPenney with their fucking jeans, like you pointed out earlier, potatoes in Idaho. That's slave labor. That is slave labor. So when we say we've abolished slavery, and this is not just blacks, although blacks are targeted more by the justice system, it is whites, it is blacks, it is men, it is females, it is the Latin community. It is the LGBT community. It's anyone that goes through the prison system in America. Your 13th Amendment right has been revoked, but it hasn't because there is a clause in there that says you can be a slave if you're convicted of a crime. It's in there. It's in the 13th Amendment. So when we talk about America being founded on certain principles, there's always a clause to those principles. And it didn't just start with the founding fathers. It didn't just go to when Abraham Lincoln, and it's still going on today. There are clauses that work against the general public.
You know what my favorite clause is?
Who?
Santa.
Fair.
Bam. Nailed it. You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. I feel like I always say lead with empathy, right? And sometimes when you're doing research for this podcast or watching a documentary like 13th, and I was scoping out all these different websites, and I just text my wife and I'm like, how do we do this shit to people? These are human beings. When we bomb the shit out of some Middle Eastern country, when we put people away for life for buying 3 bags of marijuana, when we do this shit to human beings, these are people like us.
No, I agree.
We have to be better. And if we think America is a good country, not even great, if we think it's even a shred of good in this country, in this democracy, we have to do better. It's having conversations. It's going out and voting. It's doing your civic duty for yourself, your family, and the community around you. We are one community. We are all working together to hopefully make the world a better place before it burns us all alive. That's how I feel about it. And the privatization of the prison system really, really scares me. And I hope maybe this particular podcast, maybe a documentary, maybe a YouTube live stream by us or some other person will inspire you to start to think, hey, I need to vote in a way that makes the world around me a better place. And one of the ways I can do that is voting against the privatization of prisons.
And the way you can get your information about politics is from the MadLibs podcast.
So subscribe, like, comment, share. Tell other people. Build this community up. We have the conversation. I tell you to have the conversation. Have it with us. Have it with your family. And then tell them about the podcast and the MadLibs community. And, maybe they'll kind of change their mind. And maybe they won't, but at least they'll be more informed.
Boom. Roasted. All right, guys.
Do good. Be great.
Love you.
I love you. Sorry, I got worked up, man.
It's okay.
If you kill someone or rape someone, it's different. But in general, I don't understand how we can have a prison system that operates the way it does.
Easy.
Well, I know, profits, but I'm saying
No, we elect people that let it happen. And people are stupid. And I'm talking about general population people, too. Yeah. I brought that out. I thought you might need it. I mean, I'll have some, too. Oh, you son of a bitch.
Well, you want to have this is very Bernie, so I'm like a sip shot.
The gentleman that we met at the party, was it Ryan?
Ryan. Yeah.
Ryan. Okay, yeah. He would love to be watching this right now to hear you say Bernie.
Oh.
This is feeling very Bernie. How would you describe this whiskey in one word?
Mm.
Bernie. Get it, Brian. You love socialism. Hold on, sorry. That's better. Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers. In our congressional cups. Thanks a lot again. Thanks again, Pete. Tastes political. It's warm for sure. That's what Kevin says when something is Bernie.
It's just before the bomb.
Really? I enjoy this way more than I enjoyed the one. Wow, no, wait. Isn't the tikka masala right before the bomb? God damn, that's a good hot sauce.
It is.
Yeah. Noel, are you the one that's still watching? Take that as a yes. Does she watch it on the TV and that's why she doesn't comment?
Yeah.
Yeah. Get with it, girlfriend.
Sometimes she'll shoot me a text.
Oh, okay.
And be like, "Hey, MadLibs podcast."
Speaking of which, I should text my wife. See if the boys went to bed okay.
Jason has been sending me this, I think it's a Reddit, about how, capitalism isn't working or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it said, the Mario Kart system is the way to go. He sent me this one. And basically, we need to blue shell the 1%. They're just too far out ahead.
The only thing I don't like about that is I played by like Nintendo or Super Nintendo Mario Kart. So like the red shell's the bomb.com. Red shell's the tits. Because the red shell is heat seeking.
Yeah, but blue shell just immediately knocks the number one person.
See, I didn't know that. I didn't play Mario Kart after then.
Yeah, so Mario Kart 64 was the introduction of the blue shell.
Which pisses me off a little bit because they were supposed to make that mini system that I have, the Super Nintendo one. They were supposed to do a remake of it with the Nintendo 64, and it was going to have Mario Kart 64 on it, but they didn't. I don't know if it was COVID or what, because I think it was supposed to launch 2020.
You never got it?
No. Like they were talking about making it, and then they never did.
Oh.
N64 Mini. Yeah. See. Oh, what is this one? Super Console.
It's got 1 star.
Yeah. That's probably deserving. Well, you can't get the originals like even like this. This is a remake of the Super Nintendo Mini. That's why it's only getting 2.5 stars. Because the actual good one, the one that I have is nice. I like it.
Yeah. Noel's stepdad has it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish they would do...
My mom actually bought the actual Super NES recently, like within the last 5 years or so.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she bought it from someone with like Super Mario and I think one other thing.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. I will say this. Having played some N64 since the dawn of N64, so, in the last 10 years or so, I played it, and I was just nowhere near as good. And I get it, like, you haven't played something
right.
and all that, but, like, it is noticeably different for me. And I'm like, I think part of it is like I'm used to like faster response in games now because of like controllers and the graphics of
everything involved.
The PlayStations and Xboxes now is so much faster. So it's almost like you hit things with the expectation of a certain response time and you don't get it and it throws everything off. But the only thing that's not the case is Super Mario World. Like for SNES, the original, game, which I was just that was my game and it always was.
Wait, Super Mario World?
Yeah, the one with yeah.
Super Mario World is the one we've talked about this and we've had a discussion and I just want to make sure we're talking about the same. The one, the one for Super Nintendo.
Yeah,
that's my favorite one.
Yeah, it's
awesome.
Yeah, I think I've brought it up. Like I tutored a kid.
Yeah,
I got paid $5 each time to go to his house. I think I made $15 to like show him how to beat every level.
Sick.
Yeah.
And that's fun, too.
So at one point in my life, I was a professional gamer.
It happened.
Too bad there wasn't Twitch back then.
Yeah, right.
I could have been a contender.
Put me in, coach. God damn. Yeah. Oh, Jesus.
What?
2 hours of video today.
Hey, it's a good upload. They say the strategy is to... Oh, and I think I told you this, but... The strategy is to have your raw footage uploaded completely, right? So like this whole 2 hours,
clips,
then put it into like edit out some of the gaps.
Yeah.
Take those out and have like a slightly smaller footage, so like maybe an hour and a half of the 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then from there put clip after clip for the YouTube shorts, and then from there clip after clip of for TikTok.
Ticker tax.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I think we're ready to sign off there. Cheers. I drank mine already. Sorry, Bri. It was delish.
So pretty.
It's great. It tastes great, though.